Reddit rewrote the ending to Attack on Titan. Is it any good? It's no secret that a number of people were very unhappy with the ending of Attack on Titan. Now, because this is the internet, I need to clarify that not all people felt this way. Like I said in my last video, the response seems to be pretty split, and after a week of constantly thinking about it, I think I find a lot of things about this chapter to be very problematic, but somehow I'm willing myself to like it more than I probably do, which is really strange considering I've never done that for anything else before. A lot of people want to fully respect Isayama's final chapter, while others are still reeling from the lack of answers and incoherence that they perceived. And others like me sit in the dead center in loving some parts of the chapter and being baffled by others. But with every ending to a story that's attracted worldwide audiences and captivated this many people, it's almost inevitable that people will be writing their own endings to the series to quote-unquote fix the parts that they don't like. It was done with Harry Potter, it was done with Naruto, where Naruto and Sakura got together and had a child, and for sure, it was done with Game of Thrones, where essentially the entire last season was rewritten in countless YouTube videos. One garnering as much as 7.9 million views and having a very positive like-to-dislike ratio. For Attack on Titan, the biggest rewrite being currently shared comes from the subreddit Titanfolk. The people in the subreddit particularly are a lot more critical of the final chapter than, say, others like r/AttackOnTitan and r/Shingeki no Kyojin, who definitely seem to have more positive things to say about the chapter. Titanfolk in particular has always been a manga spoiler-based subreddit and has been following each chapter pretty religiously month by month. Every time a new chapter is released, there's a slew of new memes and discussion threads in the feed, and a lot of theories and analyses of what's to come too. This is kind of what makes this subreddit different from the others on AOT. I feel like there's a difference in mindset when you get into reading a chapter month by month as opposed to binging the entire series in a relatively short amount of time. The former really makes you sit and stew on what you just read for the entire month before getting the next chapter, which builds up anticipation and sometimes headcanons of where you want the story to go. That as opposed to moving from one chapter to another with little or no break in between, which really makes one more prone to accepting the events as they appear. I'm not saying that this is the reason why the people of Titanfolk hate 139, because glaring narrative problems will always be glaringly obvious, but you can even see within the subreddit, people disagree on where they believe the whole thing fell apart. And I really think that's due to the nature of the month-by-month wait some people have experienced versus those who have been able to binge the entire series up until a certain point. So keep that in mind as context as we talk about the rewrite. While there have been a bunch of rewrites written in blog post form, the biggest fan edit being circulated to the point it got a crazy number of awards, upvotes, and even went past Reddit to be posted on Read SNK for a brief time was written by a user named VithinRed000. One of the biggest reasons it took off so much was because they used about 90% of the same manga panels from 139, and most of the rewrite took place in dialogue form, meaning the same images were used just with different context, and all of that painted a completely different story. I'm going to post a link in the description, so be sure to check that out if you want to read it for yourself. So let's get into it. What's in this rewrite that made it go semi-viral? In the original chapter 139, it very much read as Ymir being in love with King Fritz and how one-sided and toxic that really was. But the problem was that she couldn't break free of those emotions. It wasn't until Mikasa's act to kill Eren despite loving him, in a parallel to how Ymir loved King Fritz, the Titan curse was able to be lifted. Because as much as it pained Mikasa to kill Eren, she was able to, while Ymir never could. In this rewrite, two fundamental things are changed with Ymir and the Titan curse. One, Ymir could never quite understand love despite desperately wanting to, and two, the Titan curse is not particularly tied to Mikasa being the one to kill Eren as much as it is just killing Eren. Before I move on from the Ymir and King Fritz rewrite, I want to add another fan rewrite by username ck-pasta about this particular scene that, if added to the original post, ups it even more. Instead of a toxic love or an inability to understand love, Ymir had love in her heart, but it was saved for her children, her children's children, and essentially all of her descendants. She loved all the Eldian people, from the rich to the poor to the soldiers of Paradis and the warriors of Marley too. And when asked about why she kept the Titan curse present, Eren answers her by saying she never wanted her people to be slaves again. And I'm not sure why, but I gravitated towards this explanation a lot more, especially since a love for her children and her descendants seemed to make Ymir's motivations for keeping the Titan curse a lot more concrete. Okay, now back to the original rewrite. It's previously seen that Ymir has been connected to this worm thing when she was being chased into the woods, but there wasn't any dialogue to give further context on how this all worked. In this rewrite, it's explained that the worm thing is akin to a parasite that took Ymir as a host and began the Age of Titans. All of her descendants were like leaves off a tree, and they carried the potential to become Titans. And by separating the worm thing from the host and killing the host, in this case Eren, it would be able to lift the Titan curse, thereby giving a solid explanation to how the curse worked and how it could be lifted, instead of it all hinging on Mikasa and her decision to kill Eren. Because you might have to wonder, if it wasn't Mikasa who killed Eren and it was Levi, would the curse still be lifted? Likely not, considering how the pages are currently written. Yes, thematically, we would have wanted Mikasa to be the one to kill him, but logically, it was anyone who could take the shot, take it, because you might not get another chance. And if that ended up being the case, does the founding titan get rebirthed into the next Eldian child and the cycle continues all over again? This could very well be the case, but as readers, we wouldn't know this unless we had more details on exactly how the Titan curse could be lifted. It didn't even seem like the Alliance knew until Eren returned the memory back to Armin, which really makes all of this one incredibly lucky shot. Now, no disrespect to the creator, because the original vision for lifting the Titan curse could have 100% played out revolving around Mikasa, but if that's the case, it really needed proper foreshadowing that Mikasa was the only one who could do it. We get glimpses of this maybe in previous chapters when Annie asks her if she can take out Eren if needed, but these questions were mainly posed to gauge her resolve rather than breaking a curse they didn't even know could be broken. But from a logical perspective, if you make the worm thing akin to a parasite in need of a host and the final battle was the only way to finally bring us to a point where they could be separated and both die separately, it becomes a lot more believable that the Age of Titans would end with the death of Eren and the worm. Instead of Eren breaking down and being, in Armin's own words, pathetic, declaring that he wanted to be with Mikasa and have her think of no one else but him, the rewrite did away with that completely. Instead, Eren tells Armin that he doesn't love Mikasa in that way. He's in love with Historia and the baby that she's carrying is his. Now, this definitely stirred a lot of controversy, even within the Titanfolk subreddit. It was even picked up by fans of the ending claiming that Eru-Hisu shippers were just mad, and they made this entire fan edit to hate on Eren and Mikasa being canon. The OP was the one who set the record straight in a comment, saying that they weren't particularly into shipping, but the point of him including the cringy declaration of love to Historia was just trying to match the energy of the supposedly cringy declaration of love / possessiveness Eren had for Mikasa in the original chapter. This is important for anyone claiming that this fan edit was made because Eren and Historia shippers are big mad. Please stop. Yes, it's a part of the edit because narratively, the OP wanted this setup to pay off in the final page. It's really unbelievable that people are cropping out these pages to fuel a shipping war. It's 3 years later, and most of the chapter from 139 is preserved in terms of the Alliance being there to head the peace talks and Historia's stance on making sure the people of the island will fight for their right to live from everything that's transpired. For the most part, the Alliance keeps to their original counterparts. And it even keeps some of the weird things like Reiner's letter sniffing. I know a lot of people had issue with this, especially Reiner fans, but I think I see what Isayama was originally going for with them joking about horse books and the letter sniffing. It really shows that these kids who fought in this great war have found some semblance of peace and they can be their goofy selves again. We also have Annie being generally pessimistic and Armin being the beacon of hope. But instead of Jean looking to impress girls, it looks like he's proposed to Mikasa. Mikasa, who sits by Eren's grave, hasn't given him an answer yet, but tells Eren's headstone that she plans on saying yes. She still holds Eren in her heart, but will move forward and try to live her life without any regrets as he told her to. Then we flash to brand new pages that show Eren in the Paths realm. He holds up a child and flashes back to when his father held him up. And in a parallel to that, Eren holds up his child and tells him that they are free. According to a lot of the forums, the panel of the man holding up the child was said to be the final panel Isayama had intended. Of course, though, it's understandable that things change as you continue writing the series. In Harry Potter, it's been said on the record that J.K. Rowling has always intended the last word of her series to be the word scar, but when the final book came out, she decided to end it on all is well. But with this fan edit, it seemed like the OP really wanted to stay true to the original vision of a man holding up his child to close the narrative on the underlying theme of freedom. I gotta be honest, while I still really respect Isayama and his work, I really liked this. I thought it improved on a lot of the issues I had with the original chapter. All the things I loved were still in there, apart from the Dina Titan. And I felt that this fan edit provided a much better execution about lifting the Titan curse. The Eren and Historia baby might be too cliche for some, but I think in conjunction with the final panel with Eren and the child, it closes up the story so well that if this was canon, I would 100% buy it. For this page in particular, I was definitely not the biggest fan of the dialogue on this outburst. I can see why the Eren and Mikasa shippers went off, but yeah, so I'd probably workshop this page a little bit more. And one of the things I loved most about this edit was the final page with Mikasa speaking to Eren's grave. I've seen so many Eren and Mikasa shippers go off saying that her getting with Jean is quote-unquote so cringe, but I genuinely think this is a beautiful way to end Mikasa's character. I didn't have an issue with the original ending where Mikasa is still grieving Eren's death, but when I saw this fan edit, I was thinking, wow, this is a pretty great alternative. Mikasa loved Eren, and that was always apparent, and it's 100% okay to mourn him, especially after everything they've been through. But also because it's not articulated in the dialogue, we never get the sense that Mikasa will be able to move on from Eren even though he has asked her to. Like I said before, it's 100% okay for her to mourn him and love him always, but the parallels to Ymir really work best if we truly see her move on, because Ymir could never move past her love for King Fritz. So the small dialogue shift for Mikasa to verbalize that she still loves Eren but will also move on with no regrets makes it that much more powerful and really speaks to the long-running themes of AOT. Now I want to take a minute to address the commentary around this fan edit as well, because I know that's a big point of contention. Those who have taken this edit and ran with a "shippers are just mad" crusade should check themselves at the door, because that is just flat out not true. This person on TikTok had 30,000 people believe that Eren and Historia shippers were just mad and rewrote the ending just because their ship didn't work out. They liked all the comments that further perpetuated the lie and laughed alongside with them. By the way, I did reach out to this person and tell them that they were misrepresenting the work, and they did make an update video even though it's not the best. Whatever, we move forward. So in case I have to say it, please don't bully them. I've also seen other responses to this work where they think the mere existence of this fan edit is an insult to Isayama. If that's the way you feel, you're free to think that, but as long as no one's actively tweeting at Isayama and his editor with links to these pages or saying stuff like, "Here, this is what it should have been," I think this fan edit really isn't hurting anyone by existing. I think this tweet actually sums it up the best. Now that SNK is over, the best way to deal with what you dislike, what the manga did not give you, etc. is by creating/enjoying the content that caters to you. This is the best way to cope with an ending, because even if the manga ends, the fandom is still here with you. And that is so true. This is why fandom communities exist. We're here for each other to make theories, discuss ideas, talk about what we liked or disliked. Everyone goes 100% hard on the memes, and we really create fan art and fanfic to help illustrate any thoughts or feelings that we do have. So no, I don't think that it's a crime against Attack on Titan for these rewrites to exist. What Isayama wrote will always be canon. Just as the alternative versions to Naruto, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, they will always be alts. This just goes to show how passionate the AOT fans are about the story and how they would have reworked parts to better fit what they believe the narrative to be. So I want to end the video with this. If you loved the original chapter, that's great. You should feel really blessed that you got the ending that you wanted. And if you didn't like the chapter, you have every right to rewrite the fanfic or draw all the fan art in the world to rewrite it as you wish. Don't let anyone shame you into thinking that you're invalid in the way you feel, because the funny thing is, this ending had different challenges for different people. And at least on this subreddit, people have been quite receptive to the rewrite. Now I think it's time to ask a broader audience with you on YouTube. If you've read it, what do you think about it? Do you like the changes, or are you more partial to the original? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'd really like to know. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. I'm probably going to make more video essays like this in the future, so be sure to stick around for that.
Three little birds sat on my window, and they told me I don't need to worry.